going back to where we were,
yes.
about the purpose of the committee, I think we wanted to get initial thoughts. Is that right,
Yes.
Kendall? So we were thinking if there's no interest in a chair or co-chair, we could actually offer more of an informational type session that could be offered online or in person, depending on what the group wants. But if there's interest in having a chair or a co-chair, we like to see it become more of a networking type event where you're sharing and asking each other questions. And one thing Kendall and I were talking about, if this becomes more of a networking group, like its original purpose was, you could host it at a member library. RSA staff would still come to answer questions and chime in with necessary information if the discussion feels like it needs it. But if this becomes a networking group type of part of our membership, then there's more control on your end about when the meeting is and where it's hosted. But like I said, we're happy to do an informational type session though, where we give you the information you need about cataloging based off of what's going on our end. So we're just trying to test the waters to see what your initial thoughts are. If you'd like a networking piece or you just want the informational session.
And if you're here for the afternoon session, you're going to get the same speech from Anna because essentially we have a new strategic plan, or we will, that kind of, we need to adjust everything to make sure we're fitting in how we want to make this work. And it's a great time to look at everything we're doing and go, are we doing what you want us to do, or you know, can we tweak this and make it better?
Yeah, we're not sure if this is the right fit anymore. We're not sure.
Well, I haven't been doing this a really long time, but for me, it helps to see the examples and to hear about what we're doing and how it affects the catalog, and what you're doing and how it affects the cataloging. I mean, that to me is, you know, been very beneficial, and to hear about problems that other people have had, and then be able to share that, talk about it, concentrate on it, so you're not trying to work and do, you know, you can just focus on making things better, correcting things that are not correct, you know, that kind of thing. So that's helped me.
Okay. That's good feedback.
And then I can take that back and explain, maybe we have to do something differently. Maybe I should change something because it's affecting the catalog, the card catalog, or vice versa.
And I think that piece of, because I consider each of you the messengers for your library, there may be other staff that do what you do or do part of what you do, or even if there aren't other staff that do what you do, I feel like there's always takeaways that other staff at your library need to know because it affects their work, and then helping the patron.
Yeah,
it's the end result.
Go through the agenda and writing names down along the side, going, I need to tell somebody this, or I need to talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, we see that as a level of engagement too. Okay, is anybody else willing to share initial thoughts? Is there a strong preference one way or the other? Are you thinking you want both, a networking piece and an informational session, or do you think you want just the informational session? Are there strong preferences with anybody?
You kind of need a committee to actually maybe set these up and, you know, get them going and see what people want to hear.
The networking piece of it, that's right. That's what the chair would help us do, for the co-chair.
This is my first meeting, so my opinion might not be.
No, that's good though. A different perspective, a fresh perspective.
But I like the structure and authority that like meetings and like chair meetings and stuff maybe bring to the issues that are getting discussed. You know, like, because I mean, like, it just as somebody who's new in this position, you know, like, if I'm not like at a meeting, like Lori would come back from one and be like, well, we had this meeting and like officially discussed X, Y, and Z, and and this is what was talked about or decided or whatever. And then to me, that's kind of like maybe a more formal, like I don't know if it makes sense. But
I
like
see what you're getting at.
I like the structure and the authority of an official group for the chair and a co-chair. Yeah.
You know what I like the word official, you know what the official decision is, or the official workaround is, or solution. I see what you're saying, and that is an important aspect of the informational piece. We need to have the informational piece no matter what. Mostly I'm just trying to figure out if a networking group is what we need based off of what we're finding in the strategic plan. There seems to be interest, like Kendall said, in engagement at different levels, but we're just trying to figure out if having the networking piece seems relevant and helpful to you since you're the ones in this group.
Can you explain more what you mean by networking?
So,
I think we may not be.
less talking at you,
Okay.
more talking with you, more listening to you guys talk amongst yourselves and surface issues. For instance, some libraries have binge boxes, other libraries don't. And what effects does that have on other people? Some libraries will do, I don't know, a DVD video set, but an item type is a certain way. These are types of things that the committee can talk about. Hey, one of the other big things that came out of all of the focus groups and everything was that there's a palpable desire for some standardization right up, I think, until we say this is what's going to be standardized, and then people go, oh, wait a minute, that's not what we had in mind. But there's a groundswell of folks that are like, you know what, we've been doing this our own way for a long time, and sometimes it has negative effects on other libraries, right? And so a group like this is a great way to discuss not only this is how we're doing it, but is this bad for someone else? Or, inevitably someone will talk about, hey, we've made binge boxes, they're super popular, here's how we've done it. And other libraries might not have, one hasn't come in to fill a hole or something, and you're like, oh, we can do that, that's a great idea. That's not something that necessarily would get surfaced in us making an agenda for this committee. Because I don't work in a library, I don't see these things, they don't come across my desk, right? So how would I know, But you guys are on the front lines, you have pain points, you have pressure points, right? And by having more of a member-driven committee versus information kind of, downhill information flow, that your pain points and the things that you need are going to get added to the agendas more often for discussion. That doesn't mean that we're not going to say, hey, we've got new things or we've got a new, we would appreciate it if you would catalog things like this, and here's why, or here's what happens in the catalog if we do things a certain way, or, we have a change to how RDA is done, or we're doing Marchive now, how does Marchive affect how you guys catalog your materials, all of these things that come from us from a system level where it's, hey, the system has changed, or we're making the system better. That still all has to happen. But I think the piece that I'm trying to grow out of all of our committees, whether it's this committee or the CERT committee or the reports committee or RSA CAT, is more, what are your pain points? Let's talk these things out, and sometimes we have no idea they exist. And until somebody tells us, we didn't know it exists. I've for years have said it's not a problem unless I know it's a problem. I'm not omniscient, Erica's not omniscient. We can't figure these things out without your help. So basically all we're looking for is more engagement from you guys to make sure that the committee is A, doing what you want, giving you the information you want, but also providing you an opportunity to say, hey, here's something in my library that's a problem. Maybe we're doing it wrong. Maybe it's something someone else has done in their library and it's caused problems in our library, and we just want people to know.
Like that. When they said lit, I'm like, what? What is that? How do you do that? How do you put that together?
Yeah, and
What
this
does it
is
look
the
like?
committee to do that.
So how would you funnel that if somebody had something they wanted to share, like the or a problem, or somebody was requesting, I want to know more about this. Somebody mentioned it and I've never seen it before, so others may not either. How would you funnel requests and people offering to show whatever it is that they?
Sure. So we have the listserv. So the easiest way to funnel information down from us is through the listserv. One of my personal desires is to get more people signed up to the listserv in the library. Yes, there are messages that people will see that they don't need to see, but there are also messages that people need to see that they never see if they're not signed up to the listserv. So one good way would be for to put a listserv post out where the chair or vice chair, whoever's doing agenda building, say, hey, if you have any items for the agenda, you've got any things that you want to talk about, have you heard anything neat? Do you have suggestions for something you're doing in your library that we could add that might be a little 5-minute talking point or whatever?
So that would come from the chair, though. That's an important distinction, because they would keep, just like I do now, they would keep a running list of topics as members suggest things, as things happen in their own operations. So Kendall's right. I think a call on the listserv is an important piece of it, and then the chair, the co-chair, would keep a good running list of all of these ideas based off of the feedback they're getting.
And the first week of October is the annual Consortia SIG meeting, where it's a special interest group for all the consortia that are running this software, and we get together once a year and come up with a things we don't like list, and the things we like list, and the things we want changed list. And I'm the vice chair of that committee this year, which means I have to build the agenda. That's how that particular committee works. I've never built an agenda for this meeting. I've been to it, but I've never built the meetings. So I just put emails out on the listserv. Hey, what do you guys want to see? What do you want to talk about? I put my pet peeve on the agenda because, well, I'm building the agenda. So my pet peeve is going to be taken care of on this
You
agenda.
reserve that right.
That's
as
right.
The person building the agenda.
Yes.
That's
I'm the
right.
vice chair. I get to put my pet peeve on the agenda. That's how it works.
Yep.
But everything else on the agenda came from the people who were coming to the meeting. What are the things they wanted to talk about? And all I did was stick them in an order that made a certain amount of sense. And in this case, it's a 2-day meeting, so I had to put time slots, things like that. But it was really kind of easy to do. I just sent a couple of emails out. People said, hey, here's what we want. I was like, oh, look, I've filled up 2 days worth of content already. So, and in this case, it's really only 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So not too difficult. Yes.
We just have say in the chat, the kid with Brown County with the Standards for Cataloguing put out suggestions and asked feedback from all the libraries.
Oh, for the standardization. Oh, she's right. That's right, Kim. We would certainly need lots of feedback from as many of you as possible to try and figure out what direction we should head with those. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, you all see more engagement opportunities coming through the listserv. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, if there's someone having something interesting they'd like to share, they could contact the help desk or
Absolutely.
Oh, we've always had that, but yeah, that could be emphasized.
So then we could, if we have a chair, we can get in contact with them, kind of keep a list of growing agenda items, things that you guys want to discuss.
Yeah.
I do think, though, if there's a chair or a co-chair, I do think those suggestions should go straight to them, because that's really the purpose of them facilitating the group and doing the agenda building. So.
And the agenda, whoever's building the agenda for these committee meetings is going to be working with whatever RSA staff person is, in this case, Erica, right, who's in charge of the area that the meeting is happening. You're not building this thing in kind of a vacuum where you're going to walk in and we're like, so what do you got for us today? We're not going to do that.
You can tell, though, this is member driven. I don't want all the suggestions coming to me. I don't. That's going to defeat the purpose. No, you're right, though.
We can forward it.
Yeah,
They
we'd like
come
to
in.
see them go to the power of the.
All right, so that was all I wanted to say on this. You'll probably hear more about it coming. There'll be more member engagement type topics coming through the listserv as we move forward with this, starting early next year. Speaking of which, I need to go now and work on my meeting this afternoon. So I'm gonna run away
Okay,
and let you yell about me.
thank you, Kendall.
Thanks, everybody.
No, I don't think we need to make a decision today, but we just, like I said, wanted to put it out there. We will still go ahead with the January meeting, just like we're doing right now. So, oh dear, it's gobbledygook. Let me try and reload it. But I think it's January 9th, 2020. So we did just go ahead and schedule, like we always do, our normal meeting frequency. I think it's January 9th, 2020, I think. You're welcome. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, so I think we'll just revisit it at the next meeting, and like Kendall said, there'll certainly be more opportunities for discussion being pushed at you on the listserv. But thank you to those of you who shared initial thoughts, because that at least helps us test the water, so to speak, to see what you're thinking. Okay, before we leave this agenda item, I know we haven't really decided if you want a networking piece, if it would be helpful. Does somebody want to volunteer to be the chair and the co-chair, or the co-chair? You basically would just help me build the agenda for the January meeting until we figure out what we're doing in terms of a networking piece or not. You're all welcome to share suggestions, like Lisa said. That's a good point. Nobody's jumping up. You'll do it, Erin? Okay, thank you. Yeah, so keep a list on your end too, Erin, of anything you think might be helpful. But certainly, for now, I think going back to Lisa's point, since we don't have that the formal networking structure we were talking about, where the chair would organize the meetings and do all that. I think for now, share the suggestions you have for the agenda either with Erin or I, and we can work together on it. I think that sounds like a good plan. What do you think? Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yes, thank you for doing that. Okay. I think what we'll do next is we'll move forward with Lisa telling you a few things about cataloging requests. Jane Bradbury and Rhonda Bierman from our team, they are both ill today. So I'm thinking there's a bug in that office. So don't go in the second office over there. They are both, they said, very ill when they talked to me this morning. So yeah, we're
You got a couple
oh, have you? It's like when it's back to school time, all those little bugs come out again. Yeah. So like I said, avoid the second office. But we're going to kind of shift who's doing what on the agenda. So we're making it happen between the two of us. Okay. All right, I will try to keep this brief. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is I just want to give an update on our current cataloging priorities and processing time. I know that's something that came up in focus groups with kind of some of the slow processing times. We just kind of thought we'd share a little bit about that and what our practices are. So generally speaking, with libraries that do not have connection, for those processing times, we try to get things done within 7 to 14 business days. Obviously, for all of these processing times, we strive to shoot for earlier, but the 7 to 14 is just the average, I guess. But the reason non-connection is kind of like our top priority, because if you don't have connection, you have no way of circulating anything. So we want to get things at least in the catalog so they can circulate stuff. With Jane Bradbury being here, we actually now have like full processing times for the new and upgrading libraries. If anybody sends in kits, if anything needs an enhanced brief record, needs equipment, catalog. Since Jane's primarily doing that, again, like she tries to shoot for 7 to 14 business days, but I know with those, there's way less of those coming in than other things. She tends to be pretty quick on those. People that are sending in duplicate record tickets and letting us know that there's a duplicate record out in workflows, that's Jane's focus too, part of her job. So right now she's slowly working through a backlog.
But she is working on them. So if you see duplicate records out in workflows, do report them. Like we will eventually get to them. So she is working on that. If anybody has any random issues that they see with record and workflows, or have like a random question, or like you need something that needs immediate attention, like changing an OD library, or if there's an item on a raw record, those sort of things that are either questions or things that need immediate attention, we try to take care of those as soon as possible, as soon as we have an answer for you. So if you have a question about anything, do send it in to us. We will see it and try to answer it as soon as we can. Let's see. So rush requests. So when you have an item that's new to your catalog and like you have a patron that has a hold on it and need it in immediately, if you are a non-connection library, or sorry, if you're a library that doesn't have connection, or you're a library that does have connection and you happen to send in a physical item, we will get those done immediately. So if you're sending us physical items, as soon as we get it, we'll try to do it like within 24 hours and get it back out for delivery. Or if you're, again, not with connection, we'll get it in as soon as we see it in our help desk. If you are a library that does have connection and you've sent us images with your cataloging request, we will put in a brief record as soon as we see that you need something to circulate your item on. But once a brief record's in there, since your item can circulate, it will go into our connection queue and it'll be processed in the order it was received. And then the last little thing about processing times, if you are a library that has connection, if you need something in workflows and you fill out the cataloging request and it looks like it doesn't need an upgrade or anything, we do check workflows if that's the case. And if there's nothing there, we do put in a brief record as soon as we can. Usually it's in within a couple hours of you sending in a ticket. It just kind of depends what's happening here. But we will create a brief record and then put it back into our queue to process as soon as we can. If you send in a cataloging request for something that needs upgraded, or you're already attached to a record that like needs work because it doesn't look pretty, and you send it in because of that, since you can circulate, again, it'll just go into our queue and we'll process when we can. If you've sent in physical items, our turnaround time on that is 7 to 14 business days. And I know right now our current turnaround time for libraries that have connection is not great. But so I do apologize.
We will get to you. Please keep submitting. Please keep submitting.
Yeah, it's not great, but we are working very hard to process stuff. And I think some of you might have noticed that we've been processing more of those requests. Part of that's because Jane recently took on kind of being our first point for tickets from libraries that don't have connection. So she's taking kind of the bulk of that. So we're still, like, Rhonda and I are still doing those catalog requests, but less.
Rebalance.
Yeah. So we're doing a little less. So we're able to focus more on that backlog. So you'll start to see more and more of those getting done, especially as Jane gets like even more comfortable with those requests from non-connection libraries. So we will get there. So keep sending them in. I promise we will get to them. So just some random tidbits I just wanted to remind everybody of as far as processing times go. Just a reminder that like our help desk has a weird quirk that, you know, if you send in images, like it doesn't like to save them past a certain point. So part of what Rhonda and I do is we have to save images before they get to a certain date. So if you see some like a ticket being closed and you have stuff that's like way older that hasn't been closed yet, it's probably us saving images and going out to workflows to see if something's been upgraded and it's on a good quality record, and then letting you know that it's, you know, taken care of, is why that is there. So we haven't forgotten your older stuff. It's just, you know, it's just a weird
Our help
quirk.
desk has limited storage space for all those images. So Lisa's right. It's important to save them before they expire.
Yeah. Just to explain that, because I know it's kind of random to get like, why is this one closed and not the other one? So, and then again, just a reminder, like we say 7 to 14 business days, but we do always strive to shoot for a shorter turnaround time. It just really depends on what's happening here. Like if there's a cold, that kind of hurts us, and if there's like meetings or vacations or stuff like that. But if you ever have a question about an item, always, you know, contact us and we can tell you what's going on with that catalog request you sent in. I wanted to kind of show you just some of the stuff that kind of give you some stats that we've had since the last database committee meeting about how many tickets have come in, how many we processed, just to kind of give you like a breakdown of that. So,
I tried to leave your documents as is. I was moving things around this morning.
can you guys see okay? Is that big enough? Or do you want to?
Oh, you might be able to clasp that. Yeah, there you go.
So the stats I pulled were from May through August, just because that was like the easiest way. So it's an approximation of everything that's happened since the last database meeting. So from that time period, there's been 4,324 tickets that have been submitted, and then 4,602 were processed. So we're like in the positive range. That's great. And then of all those tickets that were processed in that time period, almost 300 of them were for original records. That's pretty cool. You guys are buying some unique stuff.
And that means they take longer to do.
Yeah.
So that number's important.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have like a record this month for how many I've had. Fingers crossed.
That's the power of a consortium, though. Everybody buys
Yeah.
unique things and you can share. So that, I think, speaks to our purpose.
Yeah. I just think you guys are ahead of the curve because nobody else in the world has it. So just has a lot of unique things in our database, which is great. And then this,
Anna?
yeah.
Question in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
What's the difference between connected and not?
Oh, so a connection library is a library that has access to OCLC. And then somebody that doesn't have connection, just they don't have OCLC, so they can't go out and find a record and then import it into workflows.
Yeah, good question. I'm sure others were wondering the same thing. So thank you, whoever asked that.
Yeah. Okay, and then this is just a breakdown of just the type of tickets we're getting and how many we processed and closed during that May through August time period. So this little square here, we processed 789 tickets from new and upgrading libraries. So they're not quite in our system yet, but they will be eventually. Like Flanagan is expected to go live soon. Monday. Flanagan's going live soon, Monday. So they're part of this chunk here. And then this red section over here is for libraries that have access to OCLC. So this is primarily like our backlog. So we've closed 1,260 tickets of that. And then our libraries that don't have OCLC, we've closed 2,413 tickets for them during that time period. So yay, everybody.
We're making progress. Have faith in us.
Yeah,
Keep submitting.
Yeah, this red chunk here is much larger than what it had been a few months ago. So yeah, we're making progress. It'll get way better when we have the next cataloger that can even further help us chip away, because it's a really good problem to have, having too much work to do. Great problem. We just need another person to help with that workload.
And we do appreciate everybody being patient too. I know many of you in the room have requests that are quite old. So thank you for being patient with us and using the record that you find, even if it's not the best, just using it and telling us. We appreciate you doing that and being patient. So thank you.
Let's see. All right. So next on the agenda is we're going to talk a little bit about wonder books and box books and stuff like that. How many people here are familiar with wonder books?
Okay, great. Gail's I bet Normal is on.
Yeah,
I bet
Normal.
Julia and Jeannie. Yeah, they have them there.
Yeah. So for those unfamiliar with Wonderbook, basically, Playaway, the company that gives you that little nifty, like little MP3 portable audiobook, they've decided to kind of, I'm calling them Frankenstein creations, but they basically kind of created like Frankenstein monster style playaways in a way. Like, so they've taken books that have been previously published, and then they kind of, I haven't actually seen one in person. So like, is it just a plastic piece on it, or
It's a book, and then in the corner it has a little Playaway design that it doesn't quite look like a Playaway. It's curved in the corner of the
And
book.
I'll have a picture. Okay, I didn't know if that was the actual device or if it was just one thing. So yeah, they affixed this like thing to the book,
A built-in
a
sound.
built-in speaker.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah, so that when you hit play, you could like play and pause it like you would a Playaway. But essentially you can like follow along in the book while it's reading what's going on. But they're kind of interesting. So since they're taking a book that's been previously published and then kind of repackaging it and making a new thing, it's sort of its own entity, but it has elements from previous stuff. It's a weird combination. So we got a few of these tickets from one of our libraries, and when I was processing them, I realized that there's really not an intuitive way to fill out the cataloging request form for these audio-enabled books. Because like, even though it's by Playaway, we still a book, so we still need to have like the dimensions of the item. We need to have a space for you to mark if there's no page numbers, you know, because it's kind of weird to just take a scan of a page with no page numbers on it. But you know, all that book information we need, like it doesn't prompt you for that information if you select, if you go through like the audio format and select Playaway, but there's not a really good space on the form. So we've decided to upgrade the cataloging request form to kind of make it easier for everybody. Should be in there. Revisions, it's quite rudimentary, but yeah, it gets the job done. Yeah, so this will be really simple. So on the cataloging request form, this whole section where you can like select like what a book is, like all the things that are related to a book, there is a spot where you can click. There will be a spot, it's not there yet, but there will be a spot, audio enabled book, and it has some examples of like a Wonder Book or box that you can click here, and it'll still keep up all that book information, so you can add in the dimensions, you can add and click if there's like no page numbers, like this will be here, let us know about that. That way we can get all the information and not have to like contact you later and be like, hey, what's happening with this? No, okay, that's okay. So this will eventually be added to our cataloging request form. If in the meantime you do happen to get some Wonder Books or Box or other audio-enabled type devices, for the time being, just select Book, because it'll still give you the area to put in all the information we need to catalog it. And then at the end of the cataloging request form, there's a section where it says, do you have any additional information you'd like to share? If you want, you can write Wonder Book in there just to really like drive home, hey, this is what I have. So since these are a little nifty and different and unique, I thought I'd share an example of just like what sort of images we need when we're processing a Wonder Book. And they're basically, I usually go to the menu at the top and back it on. I'm used to the keyboard controls and I'm not on here. Usually. So, good old corduroy. Yeah, so we have corduroy here. Basically, the images are all exactly the same. We'll still need the cover of the book. We'll need the spine. We'll need the back cover. And because, like I said, these are Frankenstein creations by Playaway, you'll notice that the ISBN here,
The tricky part.
yeah, so it has its own unique ISBN for the Wonder Book. And it'll have this like little choking hazard warning, and it tells you that it's a Wonder Book format. But this ISBN, it is completely different from the ISBN that is on the Verso page, because they've literally just taken the book and put their little thing on it. So when I was processing these, I had to take the ISBN that was on the back cover, go to the Playaway website, and look up the publication date to verify the narrator, that sort of information. So the back cover is really, really super important, because otherwise we won't know. We won't be able to move forward. And then we do take information from this verso page and put it in the records to kind of reflect what the item is. So we'll need the verso as well, the title page, because again, that's where we get the, the title, the publisher. Well, not the publisher, but it'll go in the record, but not in the 264 field because they're unique and Frankenstein-like.
The good thing is you're not really submitting anything too different than what you typically would for a book. That's the other reason we decided to put this under the book option on the cataloging request form. Is it's really it's just this extra piece of the sound component, and the ISBN I think is tricky about these.
The only thing that's slightly different is it would be helpful to have this image. This is the inside cover, but this is that little where the actual device is. You can see it's just on the corner of this book. The reason why it's helpful to have is just because, one, it definitely says, here's a here's a Wonder Book. This is a Wonder Book. Really obvious. And then having this, this is kind of where the publisher's listed. I mean, if it's a Wonder Book, rather, then I'll know it's Play Away. But this just is a really good visual of hey, this is here.
Sorry, the computer hiccuped, so we lost what we had open. But this one seems to be moving better, so use that one. Sorry. All right, that's okay. I have a training test workflow that I do some experimenting in, so I wanted to make sure we were in the live one.
I'm just going to show you an example of the Wonder Book in workflows. Because they have elements from both the book and the actual Wonder Book, I thought it might be helpful just to kind of show you some things to look out for when you're cataloging. Because even if you're not adding Wonder Books to the collection, the more Wonder Books we get, you're going to maybe have to start paying attention to fields. Otherwise, you might find yourself attaching a book to a Wonder Book.
We know that you're going to come across them.
You're going to find them.
Have them.
Because I mean, we will add both ISBNs to the record. We will mark the book ISBN, the one from the original publication, with a type C to mark it as invalid, to kind of give you a visual of hey, this is not the actual just a book, but it will pop up in search results. Okay, just do the first one. And as a team, we've kind of decided on some internal practices of how to catalog these, and I'll be creating a checklist on that. So if you submit cataloging requests to us, you'll start seeing more of a standardization among Wonder Books, because right now Play Away has no standardization among internal people.
In OCLC that OCLC members put in their DIY variation and how members are doing them in OCLC.
Yeah. So just some things to look out for. So if you're looking at the record, this one looks like they actually did a decent job we did it. Adding some information for you to make it obvious what this is. So if you notice, here's the ISBN, and that's on the back cover from the Wonder Book. And then underneath it, in this 020, we have the ISBN for the print book with the pipe C, so that when you're pulling it up, it'll say invalid, just to really drive home you don't want this one for your book. And then we've added in brackets a Wonder Book edition.
Yeah,
okay.
We thought that would be helpful for you because that's one more. I know it's easy to gloss over the ISBNs. I know you should check them, but I know as I'm doing training, that part sometimes it can get glossy. So I'm thinking that happens too in your case sometimes. So we were thinking that addition statement would be another good visual cue that this is for a different format. Don't attach your print book to it.
If you notice the publication statement, it's not the publisher that's actually on the print book. We've used Findaway World because they are the ones that have published this.
I feel like some of the records do use the print publisher though. So watch out. Watch out for that.
So like I said, Play Away, it doesn't seem like they have a good internal practice right now. So if you're out in OCLC out in the wild,
And someone
Be
could have edited
careful.
it out there too.
Yeah, who knows? I've seen some weird things on these. So yeah, you're gonna see like Find Away World is the publisher. If you're out at OCLC, they like Playaway has decided to use their brand name in the 300 field, and it'll say one Wonder Book. We don't like that because that's a brand. It is a specific type of audio-enabled book. So anything that we process, we're going to change to audio-enabled book because we feel like that better captures actually what it is. And then off in parentheses, like we'll either put pagination if pagination exists, or we'll put one volume on page. We'll note that there's color illustrations and the dimensions over here. Your 3.3x's are going to be, well, a lot of stuff. There's going to be text, there's going to be spoken word. So you're going to see a mix of audio and text elements in the 3.3x's. You'll see some 3.4x's because there is an audio component to it, which you wouldn't see in just like a book record. And then, okay, this one's good. This one has information about where the original book was published, who did it, over in this 500 field. And then there's much like a Playaway record, there's tons of 500 notes telling you this was issued as a Wonder Book, a preloaded audiobook player permanently attached to a hardcover book. There's a note about the rechargeable battery. There's usually a note about what kind of modes are on the item. So there's a lot of little clues here if you're looking at it. But if you start to see more of these, that's what this is. And if you have any questions about Wonder Books, feel free to contact us and we can kind of help you with the cataloging or finding stuff of them. And I'm going to turn it over to Erica, and she's going to, oh yeah.
That's actually our next thing we're going to talk about. So good question.
Erica's going to take over talking about parameters if you are using it.
Yeah, so what I would recommend, and I admit this item type, I think we set it up for the normal library because they got Fox books, which are very similar to these. So what we decided, I'm going to see if anybody, I know normal's using it, so let me see if I can pull up a record where we actually made for normal, and I think it's going to work well for those of you with Wonder Books, or if you get Fox as well. The item type we decided to make is audiobook. So let me see here. Okay. Let me do a quick check. Like Lisa said, 300 field is a good one. Audio enabled book. Yeah. And notice it says Fox edition. This is the item type we'd like to have you use for your audio-enabled books, whether they're Wonder Book or Box. The RSA CAT description that you see on the item details page, if you or your patron were looking at this in the online catalog, I think it's all in one read and listen. Let me double check though, since I'm in an admin account, I can check that real quick. We were trying to go with, yeah, notice it says all-in-one audiobook read and listen. We were trying to go with something that would mean more to the patron than audio-enabled book. We weren't sure they would know what that means. And since it has the sound component, we thought steering it in the audiobook direction might make more sense to the patron, but then mentioning too, it's a reading listen, so it can do both. So this is what we're recommending. Like any new item type that you use, remember to contact James at our help desk so he can help you with the circulation and the whole rules. And then the home location, of course, is up to you. We did make a book-talk home location with the clever description, books that talk. I know that I don't think Normal's using that one. I know Fond du Lac is, but we can add book talk if that would be helpful for a home location if you're shelving them separately. Item cat 1 and 2 are like how you always do them. Most likely fiction, most likely juvenile. Category 3, we decided that the audiobook item type would map to the audiobook item cat 3. Even though these do have the text component, we still feel like we need to just make it clear to patrons that there is an audio piece in this. So it was a tough decision because I really think they're hybrids. They're both formats, but we hate for somebody to check it out thinking it's just a book, but it's really more than that. And then the item cap 4 and 5 are optional, but I think for Galesburg, if I remember right, chime in if I'm wrong, but I think Nancy and I talked about a book talk. Yeah, item cap 4. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Megan. Thank you. But remember, home location isn't a searchable limit or a facet in the RSA cat. So we thought that having a book that talk code would be helpful in item cap 4 because remember that's the genre search limiter in the online catalog. So if we use that code there, that could be a search limiter. And then category 5, I know we made one code there for Galesburg. I think it was book talk, and then I think it was Wonder Book. Yeah, here it is. I know it's a little bit small, but we could certainly make one for Vox. I can't remember if we talked about that with normal or not, but we can certainly do one for Vox or if there's other publishers and brands doing these. But remember the 4 and the 5 are optional, but the category 5, like the 4, is just another search limiter in the online catalog. Okay. I think we're at a good point to take a break. So I think we're going to take about 10 minutes and then we will have Nancy, our special guest presenter, come up and get settled so she can tell us more about the future of cataloging. I'm going to attempt in this Zoom to pause the recording, but help me remember to restart it. There it goes. Okay, for those online, go ahead and type in the text chat if you can hear me okay.
We have like 3 stages.
Okay, great. Thank you, Megan. It looks like you've got it recording, so I'll just minimize this. Oh, okay, fine. Have you open another window on top of it? Maybe your PowerPoint can go on top of it.
Okay. Yeah, we contacted her.
Okay, excellent.
I'm able to speak.
Let's see, from here.
Those waters online.
Oh, they will, yes, yes, good point. We are sharing the screen, but let's do a check. For those online, go ahead and type in the text chat if you can see Nancy link data and the frame opening slide. Any luck so far that they can see the slide online? You know, okay. Minimize, okay. Where did it go? Has anybody, Anna, put in the text chat that they can see the screen?
I'm just seeing the note that they cannot see the slide.
They cannot see the slides. Okay, let me go get Kendall real fast so I don't move this up. So we can
Our first time using it.
Bags, which you just don't want to mess it up 2 items on the same.
Hello, how are you? Not too bad. I see.
I'm thinking because I paused it as we took a break, I'm thinking that in the. Oh, okay, since it's a different type of application.
No, it should, sharing the screen should share everything. I just wanted to change it, make it, think about it.
Depending on company, we can't look. We always take that test that we check out. No.
What do you see now, Anna?
Okay, how
Okay.
Okay, they can see the slide. Okay, great. Thank you.
It's just we were both like, something.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce Nancy George. She is the Rails centralized cataloging. Okay. They give all of us titles that are cataloging service coordinator. Okay. Nancy works out of our Rails for Ridge Service Center. You've been in your position about a year.
Not yet, 8 months.
8 months, okay. And Nancy is developing cataloging training for Rails members, doing a session at the Illinois Library Association conference. And we were just talking over the break that we think this is the beginning of a good partnership between RSA and Nancy's work, because she can help, as I sometimes call it, flesh out the bigger picture cataloging ideas, things that we sometimes lose sight of as we're doing the workflows day to day. So she is going to talk to you today about linked data and BibFrame.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. I am so happy because I'm so excited about the possibilities of the future of cataloging. If you are not excited, I think you will by the time you get out of this room, or by the time you will be after you listening to me. So before I get started about BibFrame and linked data, I wanted to talk a little bit about myself. As Erica mentioned, my name is Nancy George, and I am the Cataloging Services Coordinator at Rails Burridge location. And also, I'm responsible for cataloging and cataloging related services, including training, cataloging specialized projects. That is my responsibilities. I have more than 10 years of cataloging experience in academic public school libraries. I got my first MLS from India, and in 2015 I got one more master's from here with a concentration on cataloging and metadata. And finally, I would like to say that I'm curious by nature. I am thinking that we are in a fascinating era for libraries that are full of possibilities. So I think my enthusiasm will inspire you to be curious about this new developments in library data management. All right, so today we are going to talk about, first I wanted to talk about the cataloging services plans of Rails. So then I will be talking about the overview of, the basic overview of linked data and BibFrame. Also, I would like to talk about why catalogers should care about this thing and how the libraries should respond to the stages. At the end, I would like to wrap up my presentation with a discussion on challenges we have to face. While we implement this new challenge, new changes. Also, you will have a question time as well. So, cataloging services work group. We have a cataloging services work group. Erica was one of the members. So they identified the need for cataloging training among Rails libraries. That is crucial and very important. So that is the reason they actually hired me. So we are in the process of creating basic and intermediate cataloging course. So I am happy to announce that the basic skills are in the final stage of implementation. So it is coming soon. For intermediate and advanced skills, we are considering that as a supplementary training. Also, we will have more opportunities for webinars and presentation. In addition to that cataloging training, I am also responsible in ensuring the quality and integrity of the records in FMI and Erie, Illinois. If you are not familiar with those, you can contact me after the presentation, or you can contact Rails anytime. So another area I will be working on with consistent cataloging practices That is important for mainly for the libraries who are standalone, because for a consortium people it wouldn't be that relevant to you guys because you will be mainly following um, the guidelines from your local libraries or local consortium. So that will be helpful for standalone small libraries who doesn't have that much cataloging staff. And also it will be helpful for you as well, but you can get the ideas that also. Um, Another area I am, we are um, the coordination of specialized cataloging support that includes original cataloging, word language cataloging, and cataloging mentorship program. These ones we actually are in the process to analyze the possibilities. So we will let you guys know when we are ready to offer those services to you. All right. If you really wanted to get to know Rails, you need to because there are a lot of resources out there. So you can take advantage of those resources. So one of the good place to go is if you're not subscribed to our e-newsletter, you can go to that link and subscribe to that, and it will come on every Tuesday. It will give you a lot of continuing education opportunities. What is happening among Rails member libraries. So it will be a good opportunity for you to learn about Rails at the same time. It will be definitely beneficial for you.
And that's where the training opportunities will be.
Yeah, will be possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we have a technical services emailing list, the listserv, the Rails listserv. So in that place, you can discuss and learn different topics on cataloging, acquisition. How does span libraries are processing? If you can learn from them as well. And Prairie Cat, how they are doing. So if you have any questions, you can post that. Go ahead and subscribe to that link as well. I mean, the email link. And let's also offer cataloging support for all the LSAPs. We have different LSAPs. That's also Rails offering. So I was just wondering, any of you have link data or BitFrame experience? No.
We all do though, because we're participating in Cersei Dynex's Blue Cloud visibility, but that converts our data for us. So no, we're not doing anything
Big,
anything
live.
Right,
Yeah.
it does it for us. So yeah, in a way we have it.
All right, okay. So change and change management is very important for success, especially in this modern library. As library technology is changing, also the catalog needs are changing. MARC record also need to change. This is actually from Understanding MARC Bibliography. That website from LOC, Library of Congress website. So we need to change. So change is not one-time process. It is continuous. So it is. We have to embrace that change, and we have to. That will make our lives better. That is the main reason we are going to do that. So many times, I don't know how many of you have confronted from a non-library person, like, what is the relevance of this library, especially library catalog in this digital era? How many of you I've confronted? I was asked, what is the usage of this? You're doing a lot of cataloging, and what is the actual usage if it's not interact with web? So we convince them usually, oh yeah, we are relevant. It is true, we are still relevant. And all these things are relevant, but we always say they are not using our catalog. That is the issue. Actually, that is not the real issue. We are actually not exposing our collection very well on our web. So that is the thing we have to consider. So before we talk about why we need new elements, um, before we talk about the future, we have to think about why we don't need mark. Why is this new way of encoding our bibliographic data in a new way? What is the actual reason we have to find? Because libraries have been maintained and we have a long history of mark and we still use it and it's still relevant. It is good in a way that, but still there is a problem with mark because whenever we need uh, something to change in mark, we have to go to the data and re-enter it. Although there are some batch load process we can do it, but it is kind of a very rigid and less flexibility. And also it cannot engage or integrate with the web. So it is, and also the mark is siloed into library world only. It is not used outside of library. So we cannot express the relationship between in mark. We cannot express the relationship with even though we are bundled in a record. The mark records are bundled in a static record. It is not actually linking anywhere. So that inability to express the relationship between entities, and that is a huge down point of mark. Also, much of our library data is stored in proprietary databases like our ILS and digital depositories. These are not, the web search engines are not able to index these resources, these databases. So right now, what we have in our library catalog is human readable and understandable. We can read the mark we can read, but it is not optimized for a computer reading. So that means users cannot discover much of our library content on the web. So we all know that we are all go to web. According to Google, Goodreads, 19% of people get their books, finding their books not from library catalog, it's from online. So we have to think about that way right now. So what we can do? So there is a solution. It is not. Okay. Yeah. So one way we can do this by connecting our records to the global web of data. This is the linking open data cloud diagram. At the center is the DBpedia. DBpedia is a linked data version of Wikipedia. And all these colors in this diagram represent different subject areas. And libraries and cultural institutions, they are in the green area. So by leveraging these common standards of web, we can actually reference, reuse, we can store data on the web. So this idea is known as linked data. So we can see that everywhere on the web, that linked data. So linked data actually is a method of publishing structured data in web, so the machines can understand. Also, it gives the actual relationship between data, so in a much granular fashion than what we have right now. I don't know how many of you noticed Google's knowledge graph. It is a good explanation example of linked data. So while I was searching for Charles Dickens, this Google semantically pulled all the related data on Charles Dickens for me. This imagine if a library, local library holdings are coming up like this. It is the promise of linked data. So in 2000, I wanted to give you a little bit about technical stuff. It is mainly non-technical, but it is a little bit to understand. So it's all about linked data. It's all about building and encoding relationship between entities so that the computer can make sense and sense the data and its relationship. In 2006, Tim Berners-Lee laid out the principles of linked data, and it is the framework of semantic web. You might wonder what is semantic web and what is linked data. In my point of view, personally, I think like this. Semantic web is a big book written by so many authors, and linked data is a book that is that will use how to read that big book. So it is actually how linked data. So it is the framework behind semantic web. Semantic web actually recognizes the relationship through triples. Triples are like in English sentence like Tom Sawyer was written by Mark Twain. This is a triple. It has a, just like English sentence, it has a subject, predicate, and object. But these relationships are known as triples. This triple sometimes I also confused with these triples. So which is the triples are the RDF. Okay, sorry. Okay, these are the standards Tim Berners-Lee laid out, and he used these standards. It's actually not a standard or a protocol. It actually provides using a standard to make sense to computers. So they will be using URIs, HTTP URIs, and other. One of the standards mainly using in linked data is called RDF. And there are also other standards we'll be using for that, showing that relationship. RDF is the way of linking data using triples. RDF is the resource description framework. It is the way of linking data using triples. These triples are expressed in XML. All right. So these triples can be also linked to one another through the use of uniform resource identifiers. An essential part of linked data is the uniform resource identifiers. You can see that if you are into Library of Congress subject authorities, they already published those ones as linked data. So you can see those ones in Library of Congress authority file, these uniform resource identifiers. This URIs, the uniform resource identifier, is reliably unique way of representing an entity. An entity is a person or an object or a relationship in a fashion that it can be usable by everyone in this world. So it is usually XML or it is a standard uniform resource identifier. So libraries around the globe began to recognize the value of linked data, and there are already a number of initiatives under the way, and they are helping the libraries leveraging the semantic web. OCLC took initiative and they brought us faceted subject, faceted application subject terminology, that is FAST. You might notice in your mark record those ones. And also WorldCat link data, you can see that in WorldCat. How do they do it? I am not going to provide so much details on those ones. And another OCLC resource that have been released as linked data is Virtual International Authority File. They are providing a unique identifier. Remember I explained about the unique identifier? Those unique identifier links the authority records to all the national libraries throughout the world. So whoever is submitted to their records to view. So that's really helpful to make that standardization. I don't know how many of you notice the Library of Congress authorities and vocabulary. It's really cool to look for it. So if you want it, and they provide an interface so you can search anything and it will show that unique identifier for you. Library of Congress also realizing that library metadata, oh, I forgot to mention about the authority control in Wikipedia. I don't know any of you noticed about this. We have in every Wikipedia, there is an authority control and it will link to the national libraries. That is the unique identifier, it will link to that. So you can explore, go to Wikipedia and explore this authority control. That is so cool. And also, Library of Congress, realizing the fact that library metadata is not relevant to the linked data environment, so they made a significant movement towards embracing this linked data. That is the bibliographic framework initiative. Many of you know what I am talking about. So it is actually replaced MARC. They are working with Sephira and going to translate their MARC records into linked data. That is, and their vocabulary is built upon resource description framework, RDF. So the BIB framework allows search engines not only to find information within the records, but to do something with that information. For example, if I search about Great Gatsby, and it will pull out all the information about the different libraries holding and even the item information. So it will give you, the users can easily access their resources. So that is, we are going to see that soon, I believe. So you might already seen this. This is this diagram is from BibFrame 2.0 model. It has mainly three classes: work, instance, and item. This work is actually the conceptual essence of catalog resource. It is the order, language, subject, instance, which is the material embodiment, which includes publisher, publication information, those kind of details, and item, which is the actual digital or physical resources in library collection. As you can see, these are all linked together. So instead of bundling everything as a neat record in MARC, we have in BibFrame heavily relies on this relationship. So it is actually a collection of linked data applications. And each one is identified by URI, the Uniform Resource Identifier. Right? So again, so in this linked data environment, So when we update something in update an authority record, it will, and if it's in a linked data environment, that information will already link to the LOD cloud, that is the linked open data cloud. This increases the exposure of library data to a broader linked data community. This is one of the major principles of linked data, to provide useful links for other data. All right. Here you can see this is a small portion of RDF, that is the resource description framework of MARC record. This record was actually downloaded from OCRC as a RDF file. The record was converted into BibFrame using MARC edit, and it was opened in Notepad and copied and parsed using RDF validator and produced as a graph, just to show you. But I did not do it. I actually downloaded it from Library of Congress website. So with this RDF format, providing this means to connect bibliographic information to the LOD cloud, that is the linked open data cloud, we can connect our records to the global web of data. So there are a lot of advantages to libraries using linked data. So as catalogers, what is the usage for us? So as catalogers, we no longer have to reinvent the wheel all the time. We can use the data, we can reuse the data, we can share the data all the time. So that will give us more efficiency in our work, and we can use that time to something else. So that is one of the good thing, and also it will, as catalogers, we already know the linked data behavior. I meant the behavior is we already know how the authority, when we are doing the subject or name authority, how we link. So we already know about this. So we will be more efficient when we are when we move to the linked data environment. By leveraging linked data technology in our platform, it will enrich resource description, expose our metadata to the web, further enable the library users to unlock our hidden collections, by exposing their relationship in a meaningful way. So in order to do that, we don't need to be a linked data expert, but we need to have a basic understanding how does this work. Currently, there are several libraries are taking initiative with BibFrame and linked data and doing some experience. Some libraries work with Cifera, that is the consulting company, to create BibFrame records. So you can also go to BibFrame editor and test to input your data. It is very so much fun to see that. So if you are interested, go to BibFrame editor and you can learn from there. So this is the site, the demo site. You can go there and find the records. You can actually get the OCLC number and put it there, and it will automatically add all this information, and you can see how does it look, the preview and everything you can see. So I would recommend you to go and look to learn about it. So how libraries should respond to these changes? I would say that at least we have to begin process of considering how to translate our MARC data into a standard linked data. I'm so happy RSA is thinking in that way. That is a great move. I know that BitFrame is a phased project. It will take time, but by the meantime, we can educate ourselves. We can talk about why it's important and what would be our next step, and we can follow other projects. Like there are so many libraries took initiatives, and we can learn from them. What were the challenges and what were the opportunities they were having? So another important thing is, I think we have to become more involved with linked data community outside of library. Because I think some of the problem relies on the search engine optimization. That is big part, but as librarians, we don't really go to that part. But we have to consider SEO because it is already well documented in business world. So they are very well, but we have to be. I learned this from one of my old supervisors. He worked at Montana State University, and their library director is a great advocate for SEO, and they see so many changes in their library catalog. So I think we have to think something different outside of libraries, and we have to get more involved in linked data community. Now let's see, and also Sephira is providing training. Sephira is the consulting company to help to translate the MARC records into linked data records. So we can pursue that training as well. But still, we have some challenges. One of the big challenges is legacy MARC records that we have. We need to switch from MARC records to linked data, so it will take time. It won't happen in a flip of a second because of flip of a switch. No, it won't happen because it will take time. To help with, I believe that there will be, in the near future, there will be MARC records and different records will be coexist in a period of time. So the Library of Congress is actually trying to find tools to help with those times, the transition time. Also, another challenge would be our thinking. As catalogers, we always think about MARC records. We don't think about, so we have to think we have to shift our thoughts to a linked data environment. We need to pursue training that enables to talk about RDF. I'm still learning. It's hard to understand, but if we need to learn, we have to. We need to learn RDF, linked data, and different. So just to know the issues. So that is another thing. And vendor cooperation is also another challenge. It is up to librarians to convince the vendors, like our ILS vendors. It is important to us. So this is our future plan. So we have to convince vendors. That is another huge issue. Another huge challenge happened to the people who already took initiative. I talked to some of the librarians who already done some linked data initiative, and they said that one of the problems is Google Analytics, the Google algorithm. At first, when they started, they saw a spike, then it went down so fast. And it is believed that it is because the library catalogs are not changing frequently. Once it's done, it's done. So, but we can do one thing. We can do another solution for this, that is search engine optimization. That would be really helpful to overcome this issue. That is my personal thinking. So in summary, at some point, around 3 to 5 years, the Library of Congress will stop marked records to create records, marked to create records. Instead, they use solely BibFrame. So the library data will be less siloed, and we will be using more standards that is compatible with the web. So as catalogers, we have to think our library metadata into a larger ecosystem of the metadata beyond library. That is my my thinking. So we have to think about feeding that library data into the larger ecosystem of our a larger ecosystem beyond libraries. So that will really help us. So that's all for my presentation. And if you guys have any questions, go to.
Are your head?
Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I'm not done. Oh, if you really wanted to learn more, there are a few things I wanted to mention. That is, first one is you can learn from the web. It is so much resources out there because it's happening, so you can learn. But specifically, there are 2 webinars we have in Rails, because I am from Rails. I always wanted to show you guys what Rails have. So there are 2 webinars you can learn. Also, I wanted to invite you all to come to Illinois Library Association. I'm going to coordinate a panel, so you can learn from the real people already went through this, and you can learn from them. So there is a session. It's called Implementing Linked Data in Libraries. It's a panel discussion, so you can ask questions to them, and you can learn from them. So I am inviting you all to that conference session. Any questions? This is my bibliography if you wanted to learn more.
That might have seemed like an overwhelming amount of data, but I think you did a good job of scratching the surface of how this works. And like you said, Nancy, make sure you're on mic, but I think it's important for us to keep in mind that we just need a basic understanding. So it's okay if those RDF triples don't make complete sense. I think, though, just seeing how it works, because my understanding is that will very much be on the back end of it. From what I've seen, the BibFrame editor, I admit I haven't checked on it lately, that the Library of Congress is making, it almost looks like a form you fill out.
Yeah.
Rather than making a MARC record with all those fields like you see in workflows or OCLC, the new tool Library of Congress is doing, it almost looks like a Mad Lib where you put in the, you pick which element you want. If it's creator, and you can go author or composer or whatever type of creator, and then it guides you through it from what I've seen. So I think it would be painless.
For catalogers, but we have to evaluate the resource. That is one thing we have to do in the future. Instead of how to link this resource, instead of how to create this record, we have to think, okay, how to relate this one source to other sources. So
what do we do with it after we create it? And that's the part we thought it would be helpful. Knowing, again, the groundwork for how this works and how it's trying to get up and running with Library of Congress, we thought it would be helpful to have Kendall talk to us now for a few minutes about our Blue Cloud Visibility project we're doing through CERC Dynex. So much of what you said, Nancy, was very helpful, and I appreciate your presentation because it was relevant, actually. Do any of you remember when we first started visibility? It was a few years ago, but some of you were seeing library holding results in Google searches. And so when you said there was an initial spike in this leaked data being visible, that was the initial spike. I know you mentioned search engine optimization is something we should pursue, which I agree, to get our results more visible and boost them. But something Kendall has said too is
he thinks too that as more libraries are experimenting and putting their leaked data out there that they've converted from their MARC records, it's flooding the web, and there's a lot more content, more relationships to sift through, and that's where the SEO boost would be needed. But I'm starting to see pieces kind of fall into place here. But that point about how there was an initial spike, that was very relevant because we saw that. And now Cersei Dynex is talking about different uses for linked data because they acknowledge that initial spike, they're not sure that's going to be, I don't want to say coming back, but they're trying to branch out and find more uses, basically, which is what you were getting at too, is beyond things like the Google Graph and search results, what else can we do with it? Like you said. So Cersei Dynex, I don't want to say they're not focusing on the Google Graph, the search engine part of the project, but they see more uses for this, and that's what I think Kendall might be able to tell us a little bit about. And then I warned Jamie too. Remember, Jamie's our new member services user experience person. I said maybe this will be a project you'll eventually work on as you get settled in. So thank you, Nancy, for a very good presentation, making it manageable. Trying just to get the basics, like I said. Let me go see if
Any questions on online or no questions?
you may see Nancy again. We were talking at break, like I said, maybe a future presentation of some shape or form. So you may see Nancy again at some point.
And to kind of expand a little bit on one of the things Nancy was talking about with doing linked data. RSA does link data through Zafira. All of you don't have to do anything different. It just sucks up all of our data, turns it into linked data, and puts it out on the internet. And we've been doing this for a couple of years. When we started doing this, we were one of the very first library systems to do this. There were, I think, other than us, maybe 10 other libraries in the world that had their data parsed out into linked data and put in where Google could find it. And we were getting great search results from that. And then everybody else did it.
And ruined it. No,
And-
just kidding.
And essentially, the amount of data that the libraries entered into the repository of library data, which lives out on librarylink.com, I think it is, was 4 terabytes of information or something. It was enough information that it scared Google. They did not know how to process it. They couldn't deal with it. It was way too much information. So when it first started, I could see all kinds of search results out in Google links linking back into RSA Cat. And as more data got entered and Google went, oh my God, you could just see the search results fall right off. So Google initially was very excited about this and then got kind of like, we can't deal with this. This is too much. So over the years, what's happened is that Google has started, and they're by all means not the only one, but of course Google's the biggest player. They are mining that data. You do sometimes see search results in, especially if it's a very odd book title. McLean County Historical Society gets all kinds of hits from Google back into our catalog because they have a very unique collection. So when you do a search, there's not much data that's messing with it, and so it does pull it back. But Google also uses things like the hours you're open to feed infographics, your address, catalog, your catalog links, all of that stuff. A lot of that's getting pulled from the data that we're uploading as well.
How often do we do those uploads? We try to keep the data fresh. I know that was one thing Nancy mentioned, is we need to keep our data fresh.
It's supposed to be every other week. I can tell you that the library hours do not get updated every other week because I don't know what your library hours are. So when I put them all in, I put them in 3 years ago over Christmas vacation. Now, the interesting thing is the hours that you all gave me back then are also the hours that are in the new RSA Cat mobile app. So there's going to be an email go out hopefully next week. Not for public consumption, but if you pull out your smartphone and you type RSA Cat with no space, in either the Android or the Google App Store or Apple's App Store, you will download the app. If you click on nearby libraries, it shows all the libraries in RSA based on how close they are to wherever you happen to be standing. It also shows your contact phone, your contact email, the hours you're open, and your library's physical address, all of which was current 3 years ago when I entered the data. So there's going to be an email going out telling everybody to please download the app, look at your library's information, and make sure it's actually accurate, because that's what patrons are going to see. And they're going to look at it, they're going to go, oh, the Chillicothe Public Library is open at 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and maybe you were 3 years ago, but you may not be now.
I think so, even though that data, it needs some updating and massaging, I still think that's a very good demonstrative, is that a word? It's basically a practical example of how the data that is being mined and harvested as part of visibility, it's being used elsewhere, and it's in the mobile app, and that's something we know all the patrons want, is a good mobile app to search.
It's also being used to populate things like Overdrive links. If you search for a title and there's an Overdrive copy, a lot of times over in the infograph, it'll light up, oh, here are Overdrive consortia in your area. Click on yours, like ADML will show right up in there. You can click on it, log into ADML, and try and download the item. And Google's working, of course, they've been working on this, but they're working on adding in other things, movies and things like that. So the data's out there. People have kind of digested now that there is lots and lots and lots and lots. And there's more library data than there is government data, to give you an idea of how much, when you expand out these MARC records and link them all together, it's just a massive amount of data. So they are working on all of that. And primarily now it's showing up in infograph results. There are some ways that we can use this now. So one of the things that we've been playing with, and I'll be honest, I was playing with it in the spring, and then we started this kind of strat plan thing, and we're hiring new staff, and I just ran out of time. This is a test profile that I have set up to play with. This is why the header is very orange and annoying, because I can remember it's a test profile that way. If you do a search for Ziggy Stardust, our backend does not know that that's David Bowie, unless somewhere in the record David Bowie shows up in an indexable field, right? So here's the Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Nice CD, right? So here's the CD. It does in here say that David Bowie's an author, right? So there's a little bit of crossover there, but not a lot. This is what we have out there now for everybody. This is the more information about this title, unless you're Washington or Normal, which are using Novelist instead. This is provided by Syndetics. This is the enhanced content from Syndetics called Syndetics Unbound. And they have, based on the title that you have, they have some additional information that patrons can use. For audio recordings, there's not as much as there is if this was a book. You'd see a lot more things if this was a book. But also things we can do, there's a related resources tab, and this is that linked data that lives out on the linked data site that we harvest a couple times a month and send out there. And by breaking the data out differently than in MARC records, but doing it a little more semantically or however it is they do it, here are other things that David Bowie is in. And remember, I didn't search for David Bowie. I searched for Ziggy Stardust. But this knows, because of all the linking, that David Bowie is actually Ziggy Stardust, right? So here are other David Bowie things. Here's a book about David Bowie. Here is, oh no, that's the CD, sorry. Here are a whole bunch of 100+ things based on the genre of rock music. Here are items related to series. So again, this is English CDs, all kind of created by authors about the same time, right? So it's basically taking all this data that we have broken out in a bazillion different ways and providing it in a different fashion to patrons. And then you can click on any of these and it will open the RSA Cat page for normal with that item. So it's not a dead end. It's another way to visualize data once a patron's looking for something and they've got something kind of if we look at a book, I can spell thief, there we go. So we look at the book thief. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong. I'm not on the special normal one anymore. I'm on normal regular. This is why I have this annoying header. Not in my head. All right, so now we're back to the same thing. Here's the book thief. This is the data you're currently seeing. So you've got author data. You've got more by that author. If this was a series, it would be in there. If there were other editions, that would be in here. Things that you might also like, some surveys, that kind of thing, also available as. So that's all based on title and ISBN data. And again, we go then into the related resources, which is the visibility / BibFrame data, where they've broken this all out and they're looking at it differently. Here are other things the author's written. Yeah, that's not too hard. But here are things that are now related by subject or genre. So this is a different way of looking at the data than we're seeing before. And you can flip through here. Like this is the concept of Jews in Germany from 1933 to 1945. Here's some more. World War II concept. So again, this is something that we've put together that's using that BibFrame data that will end up rolling back into the catalog to give patrons a different way of looking at the data that's in our system and tying it together. So just wanted to let you all know about that. There are some advanced ways that you can mess with this data. You can go out to, and again, this is one of the things that we would like to roll out, but it's a time thing. If no one calls us and reports any issues or things like that, we would have far more time to do this. So this is the kind of thing where you could go out and you can type in your library will be Chillicothe. So I am Chillicothe Public Library, and I care about babies. Let's see if they have anything about babies. Baby? No, nothing about babies. All right. This is a new kind of thing. I will do manga. How about that? Then we do, and they've got some things that are pre-made so you can get an idea.
Oh,
right?
Curate.
Yeah, so it's going through and it's looking at those broken out resources. Now the really cool thing about that is, again, these are going to all link back into Chillicothe's. I open this up, it should link right out into Chillicothe. Yeah, there it is, right? But what's really cool about it is you've got this embed list. You can change it to be a carousel or a grid view or a
And then
list
that could be
view.
embedded in a website or a
Yes.
blog or a Facebook post.
So you click on that, and now you've got the HTML linking back to that rotator that links to items in your catalog that you can put on your website or on Facebook or whatever, right? You can take this and put it someplace else, and it uses that linked data in a way that you probably are not using now.
And this code is what Nancy was telling us about. That's the behind the scenes making it happen.
Yeah. And this is, anybody who knows even a little bit about HTML, this is just basically a cute little iframe with a width and a height. And you plop that on your website, and you can adjust either one based on how your pages are built, and you'll get something that looks very much like what's between these two lines here. And again, it's all linked back to your catalog. So these are the kind of things that we're playing with and trying to figure out what makes sense to let you guys know about, and then how do we support it once we've told you about it. Because once we tell you about it, then we have to support it. So we have to figure out how the timing works out on all of that. But that is just, we just wanted to follow up a little bit and kind of expand out on what Nancy was talking about. And again, this is all based on the better we catalog things, the better the links work out. If you've got a temp records don't link to anything other than author and title. That's it. So, you know, temp records are bad. Full records are good because they have all those concepts and subjects, and they link out to a million other things, and then you can do cool stuff.
No, that's very helpful, Kendall. Thank you. We can see how what Nancy told us about the foundation of it, how it comes into play even in our own catalog. Yeah. Okay, we're right at the end of time. So I think what we'll do, Megan from Galesburg was very nice and brought a binge box. If anybody wanted to look and see how they at Galesburg have been doing the multi-title sit on your couch, decompress kits. I know several libraries have done them, Peoria and Alpha Park. I was thinking, are you still okay to stay a few minutes, Meg, if everybody wants to look at it? Okay, I think we'll do that. And then we'll revisit the agenda item in more depth. Well, let me take a quick poll here. I know we're a minute over. Who would prefer to have an online follow-up meeting to talk about the agenda items we didn't get to, or who would prefer just getting the main ideas written down in a document? No strong preference. Okay, we'll look into maybe doing an online meeting to follow up on the details we didn't cover, and we'll record it if all goes according to plan. But I think we'll use just the time here we have left. If you'd like to look at Galesburg's binge box and ask any questions about it, thank you for bringing it. I think it helps to see it in person. You might take some photos of it before you leave. That way we can show them during the online part. So I think I'll do that. But I think that we can adjourn for now. And then, like I said, we'll schedule maybe an hour or so follow-up meeting. And if you can't come, we'll record it. And then remember, January 9th, 2020 is our next meeting. And it's posted on L2 and Zoom. So if you know that date works, go ahead and sign up. And if we don't see you at the online meeting, happy holidays. I'll see you next in January. Okay, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you again to Nancy for a really informative presentation. Thank you everyone.